Thank you very much, Nathan. Appreciate it. We're actually going to take just 2 questions, and then we're going to get to our final speaker, and then it's just going to be all Q&A. So for everybody. Let's get this gentleman first. By the way, I'm not crazy. This microphone, the on-off button does not work. That's why I keep covering it.
All right, this is for the economic impact. The tax rate on mechanical equipment going into data centers. Do you have any feeling as to whether it'll be taxed by the local level at their rates or whether it will be controlled by the Virginia State Corporation Commission? Because the Virginia State Corporation Commission today controls the tax rate for all the solar panels at the solar farms we have here in Frederick County.
Yeah, so I can't give you a perfectly provable response to that. However, I believe in Frederick County, we are planning to tax these facilities at 1/3 the rate that our friends to the east are. Let that sink in just a bit. So we're planning to tax these things about 1/3 the rate that our counties to the east of us are. So, given that they're allowed to tax at that rate, I assume we'll be able to tax at the rate that we wish also to. I think that answers your question. We're wondering if we'd be able to tax the materials.
I wondered whether the Virginia State Corporation Commission is going to dictate the rate like they did the solar farms here in Frederick County.
Given that they haven't reduced the increased rates to our east, I don't think that they will, no.
All right, thank you very much, Nathan. Greatly appreciate it. We're going to hold up on yours. So we'll bring more questions back. Very interesting. So I'd like to introduce Elena Schlossberg-Kunkel, who holds a BA in psychology and an MA in school counseling from Marymount. She established a coalition to protect Prince William County. While her educational background is in social sciences, having moved to the rural Crescent in Prince William County in 2002, she has seen the need for smart growth policy and conservation. She learned the important role land use decisions play in sustainability and quality of life for all residents. And I will tell you, really interesting to me, I had heard her speak on so many videos and on the news and other places. And when this first proposal came out, I called her and we did a Zoom, with a few others and stuff. And then I saw the coalition invite her out here. It's like, perfect. So because she has been fighting this battle for a while. So please come on up. Thank you, Elena.
So my name is Elena Schlossberg. My husband prefers I not use the Kunkel because it keeps him out of trouble. I am so thrilled to be here. And I first want to start out by you all should give yourselves a round of applause for being here. Because the only way anybody can make a difference is by showing up. And a journey of 1,000 miles starts with your first step. And in this fight, you're going to take a lot of steps forward and you're going to take a lot of steps back. But you can never give up. So before I go through my slideshow, which I normally don't do, but I thought maybe this time I should be prepared. Who here has ever heard of the term NIMBY? Let me ask you something. If you don't care about your biggest investment, who's going to? When did that turn into a pejorative? To care about where you live. But have you heard of NOTE? Anybody know what NOTE is? Not over there either. Which is why I am here. I am proud to be NIMBY. And I'm proud to be NOTE. Because all of Virginia is at risk right now. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? I share this because if you are only here showing up just to protect your backyard, you're missing the note. Because these transmission lines and these substations and the gas plants and the nuclear reactors, they're going to be in somebody's backyard. I don't want them in your backyard. I don't want them in mine. Don't Fairfax, Frederick. Don't do it to anybody. At the end of the day, you need to understand this is a political solution. I want to know who here has been on a bus to Richmond to advocate for those new regulations. Anybody raise your hand? I've been 5 times. People wake up in the morning, 4:30, and they get on a bus. And they travel to Richmond, and they've been doing it for years now. And we have a delegate who has voted for legislation that we have advocated. The only way you are going to protect where you live is if you protect Virginia. So let's get started. Okay, so I do not have any fancy, I don't have a doctorate. I was a middle school counselor. What I do have is a gift for getting really angry at an injustice. And demanding, yes. And demanding that the people we elect are supposed to put our interests first. I'm going to tell everybody what is lacking right now. What is lacking is a sense of urgency. Do you think we have time to wait until our farmlands go dry? No, we do not have time to wait. Our legislators need to act now. What can you do right now? You can write the governor and you can demand that that tax subsidy that we all pay for the wealthiest industry in the world, so that they don't have to pay the state tax, they should rescind that now. And let me tell you, they're afraid of that. Don't you think they are not afraid of that? So 2014, a buddy of mine calls me, Bob Weir, and he says, Elena, open the local paper. That transmission line that has been coming through the Tanna Haymarket is crossing your property. So for the first time ever, I was actually not a note for Prince William, I was a NIMBY. And this is the very first town hall against data center infrastructure. Next slide, please. So we became a respondent at the State Corporate Commission. When that transmission line comes through your backyard, that transmission line is feeding data center industry today. And eminent domain is being exercised over your neighbors throughout Virginia. And why? One customer. Do you know that the Virginia Constitution says you cannot exercise eminent domain for private gain? And yet it is happening to thousands and thousands of residents, of your neighbors in Virginia. And what we did is we went to the SEC and we proved the impossible, that that transmission line was only for one customer, a secretive Amazon Web Services campus. NDAs were being signed left and right. Our supervisors couldn't even say the word Amazon. So we proved it was for Amazon, and then we had to come up, the SEC, transmission. You gotta find a way to pay for it if you want to get it buried. Because our goal at that point was to protect the community and the small businesses. And what we did is we found a novel approach to make the data centers pay for their extension cord. Even the State Corporate Commission legal staff agreed with us. Ask me, did we win? No, we did not win. But we did not stop fighting. So I'm going to impress upon you. You cannot just give up because maybe a vote doesn't go your way. If you want to protect where you live, let me tell you something. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon that you've got to stay engaged in, even if a vote doesn't go your way. So we stayed in it because you don't know how you can affect change, even if you lose one vote, something down the road.
Why did that vote not go away?
I'm sorry. Because the State Corporate Commission picked another route, which, by the way, ultimately ended up being through a historic African-American community settlement, and then that was like a hornet's nest, and I can't go through the whole story, but so what happens because that route is picked instead is we find another way to go back to the SEC and demand that that case be heard again. Dominion, at this point, it's been 4 years, and they're like, oh my God, they are never going to stop. They're never gonna stop. And so they reached out and they said, okay, we will settle on the hybrid route that was partially buried. But you have to agree that you will give up the line extension policy to make them pay. And at that point, the coalition felt like we had made a commitment to the community that we would protect their homes. And I'll tell you, I've been asked if there's anything I could do differently, I would go back in time and I would not settle. Because the reason to make Dominion Energy force the customer to pay is because they're getting it off. If you go to a parking lot, let's say you go to CarMax, somebody says, any car you want, you don't have to pay for it. I bet you're picking a really nice car. But I bet if you have to pick the car and you have limited resources, you're not picking a Jaguar. You're not picking whatever. You're picking, like my daughter was driving a Ford Focus, okay? Like that's what you're picking. But they don't have to worry about their infrastructure because we are covering the cost for them. So what do they care? So like I said, we did end up settling, but I want you to understand that even then, what do I say? These bulk load customers are not going away. Boy, did I not understand what I was saying. Can you go to the next one, please? Okay, so what do data centers come with? They're not just a big building. It doesn't matter how pretty they look. These data center developers think that if they put glass windows, if they paint a mural of what used to be at the Manassas National Battlefield, which, by the way, the digital gateway went down in flames. They think that all we care about are the aesthetics. No, because what's happening is with every data center campus, they need substations and they need transmission lines. Next slide, please.
People are selling property.
This is a campus down the road from me. It is a massive hyperscale. On 100 acres, there's going to be 4 buildings. That building is 400,000 square feet. Go ahead, next slide, please. So I'm not going to get too into energy because it gets too confusing. But what you need to understand is there's a lot of power. And that campus is going to need 585 megawatts on 100 acres. Okay, so what does that mean? Next slide, please. That's enough power for almost 150,000 homes. So when you ask your legislator to rescind the tax subsidy for data centers, what you can say is, you didn't know then. You didn't know when you promised them this deal to bring them here to Virginia what would happen. But now you know, and now you must do better. Let's talk about diesel generators. That campus alone will need 300 diesel generators. Have you seen the size of these things? This is not something you pick up at Lowe's or Home Depot or Tractor Supply. They are the size of tractor trailers. Now, what's important to understand, in the state of Virginia, our Virginia DEQ has allowed new guidance and new waivers to allow those generators to run during peak load stress. You know what a time of peak load stress is on the grid? When it's super hot. What else is happening when it's super hot? Usually your air quality, red alert. What they're saying is they will allow the diesel generators to turn on so that the grid is not at risk of a blackout. And so now on those hot days, when a blackout could still happen, you're going to be breathing in those diesel fumes. And guess what? Do you know what? They get paid. There's a demand response program Dominion Energy just approved recently. We, as ratepayers, are paying them to run their diesel generators to pollute our air. They're next to schools. They're next to national parks. They're next to local parks. They're next to a soccer field in Chantilly. So, I don't think we can, so this is a video that I don't think we can play. Oh, can we play it?
We'll try.
I don't think you can hear it. Okay.
Wait.
That was a southern wind today. All that would be blowing right over this, our houses.
That was Storm Fern. That is a Vantage That is a Vantage data center campus in Ashburn. Do you see how close they are to those homes? That is what they're breathing in. Don't tell me that diesel generators aren't turning on. And do you know how DEQ collects the data for all these data? There's 10,000 diesel generators in Northern Virginia, and more are coming. Do you know how the DEQ collects the data? They don't. They do not collect any data. Next slide, please. So, one of the things we did, which was so fabulous, and I imagine the delegate here voted for the JLARC study, is, the General Assembly was loath to pass any regulations because they don't want to, burden the data centers. First, we got to know what the problems are. So, the JLARC study is approved, and they do this study based on the particular load demand at that time for the state, which was 23 gigawatts. And at unconstrained, which is my new favorite word for data centers, unconstrained development, which is what you all are experiencing here, anywhere and everywhere. Because green space is simply undeveloped. It has no value. It's just waiting for what's supposed to come next. So that unconstrained was at 23 gigawatts. This study was done in 2024. Do you know how many gigawatts we are at now? Dominion Energy has just disclosed. How many? 70. 70 gigawatts. So that recommendation, this is yesterday's news. You're talking about a large natural gas plant every 1.5 years. But now it's at 23 gigawatts. Does anybody here know how many? Does anybody here know how many gigawatts or that a nuclear reactor can produce? One nuclear reactor can produce about 1 gigawatt of power. So is Virginia supposed to build out 70 nuclear reactors? Oh, and by the way, that changes every month. They're expecting another 2 to 3 gigawatts per month because of applications like yours. These supervisors are not approving these data center campuses in a silo. It is a cumulative impact, which you heard about today. Okay, so next one. Okay, can you hear this one? Okay.
This Vantage campus has gas turbines. They are running on into the interconnected grid. That's what's coming to everybody lives near a data center campus that has a 7 to 10 million Virginia network. Listen.
They run 24/7. So when you hear, oh, they're going to bring on-site, generation, that's what they're talking about. Go ahead and skip that slide. Go ahead and skip that too. What is happening in Virginia and in Northern Virginia is what will happen here. There is no magic power plant. There is no way. I actually heard a data center campus application or read it. They're going to produce water. Right? So listen, you all have got to get engaged. Okay, next slide. Okay, see all those pictures? That is every crazy thing the coalition has ever done. We have had press conferences across from QTS. You see this one here? This is one of my favorites. This is our new t-shirt. It says data centers destroying communities. On the back of it, it says too much power. They take too much power, water, land. You get the gist. We bought those for a Biz Now conference that our chair, who was summarily only served one term, also did a recall on her, although it was not successful. She was removed in a primary. And what we do is we show up with respect. And what we want to do is we want to talk to people in the data center industry and say, do you understand the impacts that are happening to communities? So you have to be bold. You have to act like you are fighting not just for your quality of life, but for the future for your children and for the state of Virginia. And so, in closing, I really don't have anything more to add except that now you are a part of this community. Where do I go? You are now a part of this broader community that has been fighting for almost 12 years now. And you know what? If I haven't given up yet, you can't either. Today is a new beginning, and you have to put pressure on your local supervisors. You have to be a part of that state pressure. And let me tell you something. This is not partisan at all. Because you know what? You don't care if the legislator is a Republican or a Democrat. What you care about is they going to do the right thing.
Oh, am I getting questions?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, no.
Thank you very much, Elena. Great presentation. Greatly appreciate it. Big round of applause. Let's have all our panelists come back up to the podium, please. To the stage. If you want to come up and have a seat. If anybody needs it, there's more water behind on the back of the stage.